It may sound simple that we're going to talk about that tonight, but whenever I do my life group leader check-ins with you guys, those papers you fill out, the two things that you ask the most about are how do we deal with difficult people? Because we all have difficult people in our life groups, right? And how do we improve our group attendance? I did want to remind you, just so you guys are, just as a general refresher, we have resources for you if you're dealing with something in your group where there's a marriage in crisis or some mental health issues going on or things like that. Number one, always, if you have questions, please reach out to one of us as pastors. We're happy to help you, happy to brainstorm. Secondly, if you have someone in your group going through crisis, let's say a health diagnosis or something like that, or maybe they've recently had a loss in their family, a death, something like that, our Stephen ministers love to journey with people, and we can refer people to Stephen ministry. But if you guys specifically need resources, ABT counseling is phenomenal. We had Dr. Jessup come out last year, left some of these. I'm going to hang on to these. If you want one of these for someone in your group, come by, get one from me. Dr. Jessup's great. He's my counselor. He helped me when I was going through a pretty rough patch after my dad's transplants and all that was going on. I was struggling. So always, we're not licensed counselors. Let's refer people to counseling. We have resources for that. And you can always reach out to some of us for some help. But overwhelmingly, what we hear time and time again is that we have low and inconsistent attendance in our life groups. And what I want to talk about tonight is then how are we going to improve our life group attendance? One of the phrases that you've probably heard me say is go with the goers. And what I mean by that is those who are in your group, who want to be there, who are active, those are your core people. Keep pouring into them. Those are the people who will kind of stick it through. But one of the things that I'm sure many of you are realizing, if you don't constantly have new people coming in, life transitions happen. People move. They get jobs. Sometimes people end up changing churches for whatever reason, and we can't hold that against them. So we need to be constantly talking to people to have people coming to our life group. Now, I want everyone just to hear me for a minute. Everyone take a deep breath. Breathe in. Relax. This is not going to be me talking to you about how you are going to recruit people all night. Okay? It is not your responsibility to be the only person recruiting for your life group. I want you to hear me say that. But there is a certain aspect of, if as group leaders, we need to be modeling what we want to see other people in our group doing, which is to invite. So there are a few really simple ways as group leaders that we can invite people to our group that we sometimes forget about. Okay, I just want to remind you guys of a few quick things. One, it's always a good idea to invite your family to be a part of your life group. If you've got kids, I know that can be a little awkward, maybe not that situation, but if you have family in town who are attending your FCC, invite them to be a part of your life group. Invite your coworkers, invite friends. But the most underrated thing that I think we forget about is when we're together on Sunday morning, there's people around you everywhere who are not in a life group. When we run our numbers as a staff, Beth does this, I look at some of these numbers, our pastors look at them. 60% of FCC's attendance at North and Salem is not in a life group. Now, Espanola, y'all are killing it. Y'all are doing great. Keep it up. But they're not in a life group. So that means we have 10 people around you, 6 of them are not in a life group. So don't ever be afraid to go up to someone and say, hey, are you in a life group? Because if they are, great. That's great. You don't need to do anything else there. But then you can invite them and say, well, hey, would you like to come to mine? Or would you like to go to Ken's or so-and-so's? It's okay to have those conversations because odds are you've got pretty high chances that the person you talk to is not in a life group. So I wanted to just remind you guys of that. But what we do behind the scenes, and sometimes we get questions about this, is, well, how does FCC get people into life groups? And I've never talked to you all about this. I thought it's good knowledge for you to have. Is what we currently do when someone comes to FCC, we always tell them and push them to take our Next Steps class. That's where everyone begins. out of that Next Steps class, which talks about their discipleship and membership, we will refer people to a ministry and we'll refer people to a life group. So a lot of times when you guys get an email from me that says, hey, so-and-so wants to join your life group, they're going to hear from them or they'll reach out to you. So that's how we get people through that. On Sunday morning, we get those little cards in the back of the seat, connection cards. That's how we refer people. And we do our life groups emphasis days, where Pastor Ken, myself, will emphasize life groups and community and a message, and we'll collect people's information and get them in life groups. So you guys have all been a part of those. This should not be new to you. But we can't just rely on our systems to get people into a group. Systems are great, but what works way better is relationship. You can have the perfect processes in place, and you'll get some people, but it's way more powerful when you go up to somebody, share your testimony of being in a life group, and invite them into that. And that's what we're talking about tonight. So we're talking about something called shoulder tapping. If you've never heard of shoulder tapping, Ken's modeling for us back there. If you've never heard of shoulder tapping, there's a pastor at, the Summit in Raleigh, North Carolina. His name is Danny Franks. He's the guest services pastor. He teaches this for helping people get involved in serving and guest services, but it applies everywhere. So I basically took his teaching to kind of apply it to life groups. I heard of it like 8 years ago. It's universal. You can use this in almost any area of ministry within the church. But shoulder tapping, teaching this to your group will empower them to do it and take some of the pressure off of you, okay, which is what the goal of tonight is. So there's some reasons, though, that we don't do this. Full disclosure, you guys know what I'm talking about. People don't feel like if they're in a life group, it's their job to invite. Maybe they're afraid it's going to be awkward and they think it's your job to do it. You guys probably have heard this before. What we want to do is we want to reframe our group's understanding of this and help them see the bigger picture of why this matters so much. And we're going to look to Scripture. All right. So Matthew chapter 4. I want to encourage you sometime to look at Matthew chapter 4 at length. Matthew 4:19 specifically, it's Jesus talking to his disciples, and what does he say? He says, "Follow me, I will make you fishers of men." One of the things that Jesus teaches us is that part of following him is tied to reaching other people. Christianity is not a consumeristic faith. And I think one of the dangers that we fall into in our faith is we do make it individualistic and consumeristic, and we don't think about bringing others along with us. Jesus made that very clear when he said, if you follow me, I'm going to send you out. You're going to be fishers of men. You're going to be bringing people in. And that's something that Jesus taught us in Matthew chapter 4. So when you're talking to your life group about this, part of what you've got to do is help them see this pattern in Scripture and help them recognize that the pattern is not one of consumerism. It is one where we meet Jesus and then we go and get someone. Hey, slide operator. Thank you. We're going to meet Jesus and then we're going to go and get someone. And if you look at John chapter 1, verses 40 through 46, we see that whole pattern played out. Go ahead and open your Bible really quick and turn to John chapter 1. John chapter 1, verses 40 through 46 says this. It says, one of the two who heard John speak and followed Jesus was Andrew, Simon Peter's brother. He first found his own brother Simon and said to him, "We have found the Messiah," which means Christ. He brought him to Jesus. Jesus looked at him and said, "You are Simon, the son of John. You shall be called Cephas," which means Peter. And the next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." Now Philip was from Bethesda, the city of Andrew and Peter. And then Philip went and found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him of whom Moses and the law and the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." You see in this even little passage that we see that Andrew goes and finds Peter, and Philip ultimately goes and finds Nathanael. And part of our job as life group leaders is to help our group members understand it's not about you, it's about bringing others to Jesus, including inviting them into your life group. Which is why the pattern is when someone meets Jesus, what do? You want to go and get someone else. And I want to be clear, and I really hope you guys hear my heart here. We are blessed in that we have seen some growth in our life groups ministry and the amount of people attending across our campuses. That's awesome. I want us to get into the habit of creating culture, not just looking at numbers. Culture sets us up for long-term growth. I don't want you to think this is another program. Okay? Inviting isn't a program. I want it to be the natural overflow of following Christ, both in your life and in the life of your life group. Which is why I want us to really sit in and talk about why do we want to have this method? What does it look like for me to train my group on this method? And it's really simple. In those handouts, there's actually going to be a handout for you to take back to your life group. I will also send it to you where you can train your group leaders on this method. And it's really, really simple. The first step of this method of how I want to encourage you to train your group leaders to invite people is first on identifying people. Who is one person that I could invite? Just one person. Maybe it's a couple. And then out of that, you want to pray and ask the Lord to move in their heart. Because listen, we're not the Holy Spirit. We can't, sometimes we want to be the Holy Spirit in the life of someone. But we must pray that the Lord will do His work in their heart. It doesn't matter how good of a pitch you have. If the Lord is not inclining them and prodding them along too, it's not going to matter. So we want to pray and ask the Lord to move in their heart. And then you just have to ask directly. This is something that I think I struggled with early on in my leadership. People don't necessarily need a sermon. They need something simple and casual, no pressure, and just an invite for them to experience what you have experienced. And I'm going to kind of walk you guys through what that looks like. So, let's say you are talking to someone. I'm going to use Deb as an example. So let's say I meet Deb at FCC and I find out that she's not in a life group. And rather than go into the whole spiel of like, hey, this is why you need to be in a life group, it's relational. It's like, hey, I've been in a life group that's really meant a lot to me. Would you want to come and check it out with me sometime? I don't know how much simpler we can make this. But people sometimes really struggle with this. It's just how do you make the ask? Which is why I wanted to provide you all just a really simple example. But what this does require is that you practice it and that you have it on a rhythm within your life group. One of the things that I would encourage you to do, and by the way, this is the same way that I train people to practice the 3 circles to share the gospel. And it's going to feel incredibly awkward in your life group when you do this for the first time, which is the point. Have everyone in your group write down 2 to 3 names. Give them 60 seconds to think through what they're going to say, and then let them practice with a partner. And the reason I'm saying that is really simple as this, is because one, it's awkward the first time you go and invite someone to be a part of your life group. Let's get that awkwardness out of the way, do it in the safety of group, and then go out and try it with some people in your church or in your life or in your family, your friends group. So I would encourage you guys to do that in your groups at least once a month. Which is why I want to circle back to this. This is about creating culture in your life group. This is not about program. You can build this into your regular rhythms of your group, practice it once a month, and ask the question, who's one person that you can invite? And then let your group practice this. A few things that you guys can keep in mind is, as a rule, in our groups, we need to practice this at the beginning of every new study. Now you may be like, You know, we've been in John for 18 months. I understand that. But you can still practice it once a month. But before you hit a new study, that is prime time to get someone into a life group. So if you know we've got 4 weeks left in John, start prepping your life group and plan on having them be thinking and praying about who they're going to invite before you start the next study. That way you're on level playing field. And make sure you just normalize it, guys. Part of what we can do is just like we have prayer requests in groups. Ask your group for those names, collect them, and pray over them at the end of your group at least once a month. And just update people where you're standing on those conversations. That way there's that built-in accountability for each other, but also it's that normal thing that you build into the rhythms of your life group. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just tell you, anytime you're training culture, there's always a little bit of resistance because we get comfortable with the people that are in our group. We get comfortable with things that are going on. So there's always going to be some common excuses people give. Well, I feel like I shouldn't be the one that's inviting people into life group, because one of the most common ones is people are afraid because it's a forever commitment. But let's be honest. Nothing is ever forever. You all know that. Life happens quick. It's here one day, it's gone the next. Things change. So I always tell people, whether you're going to be at FCC for 3 months or 30 years, you need to be in community. So encourage people to not use as an excuse. Awkwardness, yep, that's a real deal. And it may be awkward if they don't like it, but the great news is that there's a lot of other life groups for people to try. So you can't use that as an example. But we want to be clear, and we want to be kind. So that's why I say and this is what I would encourage you, when you're training your life groups on this, when you're training your groups on this, just encourage them to invite people once. Try it, no pressure. And then just follow up with them. It's really simple. It lowers the stakes. This is not negotiating a contract for the government. This is just inviting someone to be a part of a life group. One of the ways that you guys can lower the stakes and make it easier for people too is, remember that new study, or maybe your group, you've hit pause on sermon base and you're doing a 4 to 6 week kind of a standalone study. That's also a great time to invite people to be a part of a group. Another really simple time is part of our rhythms. We have socials. Have a game night and invite them to come that night just to get to know some people. Those are really great ways to get people that are disconnected involved in your life group. Because remember, 6 out of 10 at FCC as a rule are not in a life group. So that's a really simple way to get people involved into a life group. One of the things that I did want to make sure, just to help you guys understand, because this can come across as me just being like, go and invite people. And you should be, and we all should be. But I want to remind you again, God is the one that works. Our job is to be faithful, to share with people, but we have to trust that God is the one that does the saving and changes hearts. That's why we share the gospel. That's why we invite people into these gospel-shaped communities that we have called life groups. That's why we invite them into them. Because the goal isn't necessarily the goal is never for our numbers to boom. The goal is we want to see people in community where they can practice the one another's, where they can be built up in their discipleship, where they can be a part of the church. I love what Paul writes in 1 Corinthians. He says that I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth. The growth that happens in your life group is not just because of your invite. It's because God is growing and working in people's hearts, which is why we want to be able to continually having that ongoing rhythm of who am I inviting? What's that look like? And encouraging other people to invite in your life group. So, remember, I said at the beginning, take a breath. It is not your sole job to invite people to life group, but your responsibility is to create the culture in their life group. Okay, I can't do that for you. Matt can't do that for you. Pastor Ken can't do that for you. So your job is to create this as a rhythm. But that's why we invite, because if we're not inviting, no one else will. and we share with our group that I invited someone this week. Because part of what we have to do in creating culture, remember, we just don't ever want to celebrate successes. So it'd be really awkward if you threw a party every time someone new showed up in your life group for that person. That would just be really, really awkward. So you don't celebrate attendance, you celebrate invites. Because what you celebrate is going to get repeated, right? So part of what I would encourage you guys is when you're doing your updates in your life groups with your leaders, celebrate the action, not just the result. So like, don't have to celebrate, like I said, don't throw a party when new people are here, but celebrate when someone shares, hey, I invited my neighbor to come to life group this week. That is worth celebrating. And we want to have that constant culture of reminding and celebrating the invites and what gets repeated. Because your responsibility is to create culture. And it's a big mistake if we only celebrate when someone joins. Celebrate when people are invited, all right? Really simple. Maybe oversimplistic, but we do want to celebrate that. So, something that you guys may not have really ever thought about is I want to give you guys just a framework to think through. Well, then who am I looking for? So, if you ever want to meet new people at church, I'm going to give you a hack that you guys may never thought about. Y'all know what this is? If you work in guest services, you should. Right? What are these? First time guest bags. So this is Salem's, bright green. This is North. Don't worry, we're going to get North on the green train eventually. They just got to get rid of these first. Matt likes the brown bag. I do too. And this is actually my baby, but I was the last person to order these. New guy went to this at Salem, and it's okay. But anyways, they're easy to see. They're easy to see. But anyways, let me give you a great way to meet people at FCC. Look for the bags and go and talk to them. Go by the first-time guest area. I'm not saying that you all have to serve in guest services, which that's a great idea, actually. Let's just enroll everyone. No, I'm kidding. But come by the first-time guest desk, hang out with some people that are serving there from time to time, and get to meet new people. At Salem and at North, after the services, we do a meet the pastor where guests can come and talk to the pastor. Come crash meet the pastor. It's okay. Just don't let me think about that. Yeah, come crash it. It's fine. We'll be all right. But come and talk to these guests and invite them into your life group. Use that little script. Hey, are you in a life group? Dick, I'd love to invite you to mine. And just make that a normal pattern that you do. Because it's a really simple way to do that. One of the things, too, that you can do is look for people in life transition. I will tell you, one of the number one things people say when they're going through a new job, maybe they've had a baby, they've just moved here, they're looking for other people. They're looking for friends, looking for a community. So think about in your circle, who's got a new job, who's had a baby, who's just moved here. All of those things that are transition is a time that helps push people into community. I cannot tell you how many people come through our Next Steps class who are in transition. And they're coming into there because they're looking to get involved in a church body and find community. So I would tell you, just keep that in mind. Look for friends who are spiritually curious. I do want to tell you, your life group can be a phenomenal evangelistic tool. If people have questions about faith who may not know Jesus, that's not its primary purpose. Our life groups really are meant for believers to fellowship together. But if you have someone in your life who's spiritually curious, invite them in and let them go through your study with you and ask questions about the faith. And think about people already in your circle and in the circle of the people in your life group. So your group leaders, your group members, I guarantee you, know someone that's got a new job, know someone that's got a baby, know someone that's moved, they have spiritually curious friends, and they have people already in their circle. So just encourage them to go and to tap on some shoulders and invite them into life groups, to be relational, not random. That's where the rub comes, okay? I don't like cold calls. I know you guys probably don't like them. So I would say leverage the relationships within the group to go out and to meet new people and invite them to be a part of life group, to be a part of the community that you guys are in. Make sense? Okay? And here's why. So the reason we even do this, okay, the reason I'm even talking to you guys about inviting life groups is our vision, if you guys remember, is Jesus every day, Jesus everyone, and Jesus everywhere. You guys have heard this a lot. If you are not in community within FCC, it is going to be very hard for you to practice and be involved with Jesus every day, read the Word and prayer. Of course, you can do it on your own, but the way we learn and the way that we hold each other accountable is in community. Jesus everyone, serving, living in community, living generously. That is the epitome of community, of doing that together. And then your life group is also a mission field. I mean, how many of you guys, I can look across the room here and think of like 5, 6, 7 of you all as groups where I know your life group is basically a mini mission field. You're reaching people with the gospel. You're having gospel conversations. This vision of Jesus every day, everyone, everywhere is best lived out not just on Sunday morning attendance. It's in relationship with other people in a life group and in community. So I just want to remind you guys, life groups are the place where you can learn to do these things. And that's why it's so important that we are constantly trying to invite and bring in new people so we can train them in these things as well. That was really simple. And my goal was to be really simple. Now, here's the deal. I don't know what questions that you guys may have about this process, about why we do this. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have. I'm also happy just to get everyone out of here early because it was a really simple meal in the training. What's up, Billy?
Question.
Yeah.
Shoulder tapping, inviting is wonderful, but I think to put some teeth to it, I think like group of Sunday or sometimes just have people come up and show life change by being in the life group. Like we did a few weeks ago with our right 1 or 2 clips before. So by seeing how life groups change their lives, that would put the teeth to it for maybe have more people interested if there are life issues that I need someone to surround me other than just immediate family.
Are you saying like testimony?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like we did, just come up like, says I've been in the life group, this is how my life has changed.
Absolutely. Yeah, so one of the most powerful things you can do is that scripture is really simple, but when you're talking to people, share your story of how a life group matters so much to you. And of course, that's something we can do from stage and kind of talk through some things. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you guys before, but when my wife and I first got married, literally the reason that I'm in ministry is because of a life group. We did what most couples do. We church hopped. We went from church to church, right? Ended up at a little church in Bedford called Bedrock Community Church in Bedford. And I showed up on Life Group Sunday, a day that I didn't really want to be there. Tried to leave. My wife did not leave. She saw a Life Group leader there and went and talked to her. They invited us to Life Group, and that's where I fell in love with Life Groups. I learned to lead a life group discussion in that group. I learned what it looked like to organize a few little events here and there, and it meant the world to me. Your testimony is way more powerful than any process we can put in place, and I would encourage your group leaders with that. But yeah, Billy, thank you. That's good, man. Good reminder. Any other questions?
I just realized something as I was sitting here. I'm going to be doing the devotion for the women's game night in a couple weeks. And I'm sitting, yes, next week.
Didn't make you more nervous.
And I was telling Keith, there's many things in my life I could talk about trusting Jesus when I was faced with that. And I was sitting here thinking, I don't know why you bring this up. I guess I'm getting your permission to do this, but I think this would be a great time for me to talk about how we had to trust Jesus to get our life group. And they're going to hear, all these women are going to hear about life group. And maybe that'd be a way I can, because I was going to talk about our move back to Virginia and, just how we had to trust and all the, make sure everything worked out with that. But I think that would be really powerful to, if you think that would be a good idea.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you don't need my permission.
Because I'm going to have a lot of women there. And I mean, that Keith and I, as you know and Kim knows, wow, we have put a lot of trust in been gone too, and we're still trusting him every day. So I guess I just mentioned that, so if we do have these opportunities,
Yeah, absolutely.
we could use that.
For those of you who don't know, Keith and Ann were part of Ken's life group, and Ken's life group got so big they had to multiply, and now they're both big again. So, yeah, so that's really good. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah,
Anything unclear?
I like the idea of tapping the shoulder on Sunday morning with 10 people around you, 6 of them aren't in a life group. But the likelihood that they're gonna be coming to my life group at 6:30 on Tuesday morning,
You never know.
you know, but they wanna be in the life group. What's the easiest way to introduce them to the right?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. If you run into somebody who's not in a life group and they need to get in one, the best thing to do is get them connected with, if it's at Salem, get them connected with me, because I kind of play matchmaker. It's kind of funny, but I'll take my list of groups and see who's where, and then I'll place them there at your campuses. That would be your campus pastor, and they'll get you placed. But yeah, that's the easiest way. If I am not available, you can go on our website, and there's actually a tab that says life groups, and there's a whole list on our website of all of our active life groups. I think Jack's got it pulled up right now. Yeah. And if you look at that, you can look and see what groups are. You can show them that, but then they can fill out the form on the page, and it sends it to my email, and then I can follow up with them. So I'm usually around, but
The QR code too, when we do our, our connection card.
Yes,
that
it has it too.
says, do you want that information about life group, and you can
Yes.
use it there.
yeah, absolutely. So that's something that you easily can do as well. Thank you for that. It's a good question. Yes.
Question and suggestion. How many times a year do we do Life Group Sunday where we have the tables around the fellowship hall? Or do we still do that?
About twice.
About twice a year?
Yeah.
The biggest thing that helped me, I attended FCC growing up as a kid, and I went for years as an adult without going to a life group, because even though I grew up in the church, I was afraid of people that I had never seen or met before. So that list of just names and descriptions was really intimidating. So could we use social media or do like an introductory video where like each leader on that life group page has a video and we say, hey, we're the Swan Beasts, we're awesome, we love people.
Okay, how much do I need to give you for that comment, Hannah?
Just keep my dad under control.
That's gonna be really tough to do, as you well know.
Dad needs no control.
No, that's a good point. I would have to figure out how to even go about doing that. But one of the things that I will tell you, if any of you guys are creative in social media, I always need help with that. To get the word out through social media about our Life Groups ministry. So I'm just saying, if that's your thing, I would love to hear that. But no, so just to recap, like you said, it was intimidating going to those tables on that day.
It wasn't intimidating going to the tables because I'm from the South, I can chit chat.
Sure.
But looking at the list and choosing
Oh, that
from a
part
blank
stressed you
list,
out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
freaked
okay.
me out. I didn't know who those people were. But when I see a face, I mean, look at that guy. He's It makes it more
Yeah.
accessible.
Absolutely. No, that's good. And that's probably a good reason. I'm not going to harp on this too much, but as group leaders, when you see somebody you don't know, good time to introduce themselves. So, anything else you got? Okay. Well, I don't have anything else at all. Ken, do you have anything you want to add?
Sure. No,
And then we'll get you guys out early.
I wanted to affirm, yeah, because you wanted me to close out with.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Just a few comments to make. What Andrew's shared with you is some really good principles and some insights, but keep this in mind. I was sitting there and I was listening to it. What we're doing in our life groups is more than recruiting. It's all about relationships. I was thinking about really, somebody made the statement back a few years ago, people want more than a friendly church, they want friends. And if you and I are just friends to people, things fall into their proper perspective. So I'm just like, if we just love on the people that are around us at North Campus, FCC Espanol, if we just reflect Jesus to them. In fact, I was thinking of all that we've been going through in the Gospel of John, fill in the blank. Jesus was a blank of tax collectors and sinners. What goes in the blank? Friend. What are some of the examples of just how Jesus lived day to day? Give me some examples. Give me some names of people and the variety of people that he loved on just in the Gospel of John. What were some of those examples? Woman at the well, and she was what? She was a prostitute, very far from God. Multiple marriages. All right. Somebody else. Matthew.
Collector.
Okay. Tax collector. What's another early on example? Religious guy. Nicodemus. Right. Yeah. What are some other examples? Mary Magdalene. Yeah. I think you get the general idea. Every single day, Jesus was about relationships. And I was thinking, I've seen some examples, as I know in the Swanbee's life group, after our group multiplied, they were looking for some new people, and Keith works with Robert Grimm, does the lighting, and works with Robert in that. And Robert was not connected to any life group, and Keith just extended an invitation and said, "You want to come and be a part of our group?" And Robert's been there faithfully ever since. I noticed there was a person in Night to Shine that was there every day throughout the week leading up to the Night to Shine event. And I asked him at the end of the week, I said, "I don't really know you." And he had been coming to the church for a few years, and his name was Ron Spurlock. And I said, "Ron, I'd like to take you out to eat a bite of lunch." And so we went out, got a bite of lunch, and then I met his wife, Diana. They came to the Next Steps class. I said, "Hey, we have a small group that meets on, life group that meets on Sunday evenings. Would you and your wife like to come?" They came 2 weeks ago and participated in the very first time that they were there. And I think we had 20, our group's back up to about 20 people now. And I realized if we just build relationships with people, things will fall into place. So make it not just about recruiting, but make it about relationships. And I think everything will take on its proper perspective. And I thought a good way for us to close is just to pray at our tables. I want to give you a few things that I'd like you to specifically pray for your groups, FCC Espanol, North Campus, Salem Campus. Here's a few things. Jesus, help me be relational like you were. Jesus, help me step out of my comfort zone. And Jesus, help me be you to the people that I meet. All right? That will be relational. We'll be Jesus to people. That will step out of our comfort zone. It's always a little scary when you extend an invitation to somebody. But here's what I've learned. Andrew gave you some ways in which you can ask people and invite them to your group. But I found this with our Next Steps class. Let's say I meet with somebody and I'm doing some marriage counseling, or I meet somebody that's new and coming to the church for the first time. I say, we have a Next Steps class where we help people in their journey and relationship with Jesus. Could I extend an invitation for you to be a part of that class? It is really hard for people to turn that offer down. And you're doing the exact same thing in terms of what you do in life groups. So just pray that God will use you, you'll model to the rest of the group, and I think things will fall into their proper perspective. So if you would, just take a few minutes at your tables, and then is there anything after we finish with the closing prayer?
The guide that we've created you can take with you, and I'm going to send this out as well, so you guys are more than welcome to train your groups on this very same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. All right, spend some time in prayer.